How are you doing? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world options trading program. And what we're going to do for 2021, eventually the first piece of content that we're creating for this new year, is we're going to go into what I call the Law of Game series. And this is a series I created, I was really doing on Facebook, because I realized that we had a lot of people, but especially a lot of younger people, that really hadn't been exposed to any real game. And what they've been conditioned to believe that game is, because they spend so much time online and that's really their exposure to the world, is they think game is, how you try to talk your way into having sex with a woman. Or they think game is, how you try to manage your relationship with a woman. Or they think game is information, like, how much trivia do I know about a particular situation? And that's really not game. And so as a result, when you interact with them or when you have communication with them, a lot of their communication or the ideas that they have are really not beneficial to them because they don't really know anything. They haven't really been around anybody. They haven't really been exposed to anything. So they're being, it's kind of like a blind leading the blind type of situation. So I was really, people that I was creating this content for on Facebook were really receptive to it. And as a result, I've decided to kind of migrate from Facebook to YouTube because I'm having some issues with Facebook. And I kind of like how Google treats people a little bit better than Facebook. So this is going to be the first piece of content under this particular genre or series that we're doing for 2021. And what we're going to talk about is why you can't cancel someone online who already has an audience, right? And what we've seen really on YouTube and especially on Twitter over the past really decade is that if somebody has some influence online, what they do is a lot of times they will create a campaign against another person, right? Because they may not have liked something that this person has done, and they call it like canceling. And what they do is try to tell people like, you can't listen to this person anymore. You should, unsubscribe or disconnect from this person. And essentially what they're kind of trying to do is they're trying to persuade and influence people to do what they want them to do, and that's really what it really boils down to, is that they're trying to get you to believe that you shouldn't listen to this person or you shouldn't deal with this person because I don't, right? And it's like in the real world, me telling somebody, well, because you don't talk to this person or because I don't talk to this person, you shouldn't talk to this person. And that's really what they're trying to do. And as a result, right, it's created these campaigns against people, and some of them have been successful and some of them have not been successful. What I'm gonna try to do is really get you to understand the fallacy in this belief system and how you can be more effective if you do something different. If your desire is to become a more effective person and to get more benefits out of a situation, as opposed to following these cancel culture campaigns, right? So this is what canceling is that, a person will say, hey, this particular person did something or they said something on the internet. And what I want to do is I want to rally this audience, right, to go against this person. So either everybody stops listening to this person, or even to like on the extent where we try to get their profile or their account taken down. I know somebody on Twitter that says something about Bruno Mars, that Bruno Mars's fans, right, thought was negative. And they came after this person so bad, their whole Twitter page got taken down. They got it reinstated, got taken back down again. So they're no longer on Twitter. So this is how deep this thing gets, to where you have these masses of people where they try to exert their power over other people, right, by getting people taken off of social media and quote unquote getting them canceled. And it's really a fool's errand. And I want you to really understand why it is, but to really get you to understand how we got to this point, I'm gonna try to give you some context, right? So a lot of y'all are gonna be listening. You're gonna probably be too young to remember this. Some of y'all are gonna actually remember this, and some of y'all are not gonna remember this because you don't understand the space in which this took place. So we'll say in the late 80s, there was this guy named Jimmy the Greek, right? And what he was a commentator, but he really was a bookmaker. And a bookmaker, people that gamble and really understand sports wagering understand, is that it's a person that sets the odds or the lines for sports. And what they would do, because there's a really strong relationship between NFL football, college football, and sports wagering, is they would let this guy come on television and he would kind of say what the lines were or give his perspective on certain games. So it was kind of a way in which they had to speak direct but indirectly, because at that time, outside of Vegas and maybe Atlantic City, sports wagering was illegal, but people were still doing it all over the country, right? So he would come on, he would give his little bit, keep it pushing. Well, one day he gave an interview and he made some statements about, the reason why black athletes are so successful in the NFL, and I'm paraphrasing him, is that because of the way in which black people were bred, which is, I think, the term that he used, right? back when chattel slavery was taking place. And that's something that's something that a lot of people in America believe, even though it really doesn't match up to data. Because, for example, I'm probably in the top 5% of height of American men. Most black people are not in that top 5%. So black people were being bred to be tall and strong and these things. Well, the majority of black people in this country are not tall and strong. They just average looking people. Their average height, their average physique, the whole 9 yards. So it's funny how people believe these urban myths, but they really don't stand up to data. But that's a side point. So he made this particular statement, and people in media jumped on it and created a campaign against him. And because of the way media was set up back then, to where, it was maybe a few media platforms, television, radio, and then you had to be allowed on these platforms. And so once things started to go against him, the only way he could combat it was to be allowed back on the platform to kind of explain or kind of clean up what he had said. Well, he wasn't really allowed back on these platforms. So eventually what happens was that he lost his ability, right, to come back on that network to talk about football games. But that's how things went back then, to where if you were a celebrity or you were a personality in media, your access to platforms was controlled by gatekeepers. And so it was very easy for people who had decided that they wanted to get rid of you. Why? Because the gatekeepers would just say, well, you know what? We're not going to allow you back on the platform. And then so if somebody was creating a campaign against you, you really had no way to combat it, because you couldn't get on print media. You couldn't get on radio, and you couldn't get on television. So you just had to allow yourself to sit back and be attacked, and eventually you would get your character destroyed via the media. This happened to a lot of people, right? So you got to understand is that that's how things went back in the day. Now we in the social media era where everybody can create their own media platform via social media. So you got Facebook, you got YouTube, you got Twitter. A lot of people, we're reading now because we're in 2021. You got people that was born in 2000, right? They don't know a world in which you didn't have social media. By the time they finally got aware of what was going on around them, social media already existed. So they can't even imagine a world with no social media. They just don't, that doesn't make sense to them. So in their mind, you've always had this access, but to be real with you, this access is not even 20 years old. It's just so much of it, it seems very normal, but the access to create your own media platforms and to control your own media and to produce and distribute your own media relatively inexpensively is something that's barely over a decade old. It's just, it's expanded a lot in a very, very short amount of time. So now anybody can get on social media and essentially create their own platform and then create their own audience, right? And then what that's done is now you have the ability to have people that believe in what you say. They get value in what you say, right? And they have an affinity for you for one reason or another. Now you got to understand something. And this is the deeper context in the real game of what I'm talking about. You have to really start to understand what it really means psychologically when someone appoints someone in their mind, right? So if I'm person A and I decide that I am going to appoint person B in my mind, I'm going to exalt them in my mind. You have to really understand what that really means. Okay? You have to understand what that really means. And that's where a lot of people are really not understanding, because they're seeing things through their eyes, except they're not seeing things through the eyes of the other person. So let me give an example. If a person desires to be in a relationship with somebody and they choose to be in a relationship with someone. So let's say it's a person in your family and they choose to be in a relationship with someone. You may know who that person is that they chose to be in a relationship with. You may feel like this is a bad person, and you and the other members of your family may rally to go against that relationship. Well, the reason why a lot of times that doesn't work is because a person appointed that person in their mind. They've exalted that person in their mind. They've made a decision, right, to promote this person in their mind, in their psychology. Then you come against that. And in your mind, you know what you think you're doing? You think you're coming against the person that they've chosen. But in reality, you're coming against that person's decision-making process. You're coming against their ability to make a decision. And for the majority of the population, the majority of the world, they cannot admit that they made a bad decision. They can't admit it. Most people cannot admit that they made a bad decision. It's always going to be something external, the reason why things did not go the way they wanted them to go. So if they choose somebody in their mind and then you turn around and come to them and say, hey, you know what? You chose the wrong person. This is the wrong person that you want to be with. They now have to accept that I made a bad decision. Well, they don't want to accept that. So what they do is that they will defend the situation, not because they really care a lot about that person, is because they're trying to defend their decision-making process, because most people cannot admit that they made a bad decision in the situation. So when they choose to exalt or promote somebody inside their mind, they're going to stick to that, right? Until the situation just totally goes south. And then a lot of times what people will do is behind closed doors, right, in private, they will admit that they dealt with the wrong person, but they're never going to do it in public. So if you know somebody in your family, or you know somebody that may be a friend of yours and they're in a relationship with the wrong person, it's going to be very difficult for you to make that person understand that that's the wrong person, because they made a decision. And most people cannot admit in any scenario, whether it's an interpersonal relationship, they chose to buy a car, they chose to buy a house, they chose to go to school to get an education, they chose to pick a specific job. They cannot admit that they made the wrong decision. It has to be something external as the reason why things are going the way they wanted to go. It can't be them. So when you come and you attack a person on social media that has an audience, what you're doing is trying to tell that audience that you made a wrong decision in perking this person. You made the wrong decision in promoting this person. And you know what? It's not going to work, because then they have to admit to you that they made a mistake, and that's not going to happen. So this is why cancel culture is not effective. These people that have been quote unquote canceled online, they're still online doing what they're doing. Why? Because they've already built an audience. They've already built an audience. And once a person builds an audience on the internet, the only person that can get them off the internet is a person that controls the platform. So if you're not YouTube or you're not Twitter, you can't get them off. Now, can you create a campaign to try to get their channel taken down? Yeah, you can do that. Right. But that's, like I said, you're going to the person that controls the platform, but you're not going to be able to convince their audience to stop dealing with them. It doesn't matter what information you present. It doesn't matter whether you try to do this expose. All of that is not relevant, because, like I said, you got to understand what's going on in the mind of the person that promoted this person inside their own brain. You're not thinking about that. You're thinking, well, if I show you something that's factual, it's going to change your belief system. No, because then that person has to admit that they're wrong, and they don't want to admit that. That's bigger than them being correct. Most people, them being correct is not as big as them never admitting that they were wrong. What's more important to them is they don't never admit that they're wrong, not that they get the correct answer. Now, the second thing that's happened is that when you have an influencer or a celebrity that has an audience and something scandalous comes out about them, what they do now is they go back to their audience and they reinforce their audience decision-making process. So you have a celebrity A or influencer A, and something scandalous comes out about them, and people are putting forth this information about them. What they do now is they go back to their audience and they reinforce to their audience why they have chosen to promote that person in the mind of the audience. Right? They're reinforcing the connection. Because they understand that, well, once people have already selected me or promoted me, they're going to have a hard time, right, admitting that they made a mistake. So if I keep giving them what they wanted, and I keep giving them, right, what is providing what they believe a solution to them, I keep giving them the reason why they came to me in the first place, they don't care about this other information, because for them to accept that other information, they got to accept that they made a bad decision. And I want you to really understand this. Now, what some people can do is you can create content that appeals to, right, people that hate that person. So what people do on the internet is they say, you know what, I'm going to create oppositional content and I'm going to appeal to the people that don't like this other person. So you got celebrity A, they got a fan base. Let me create content that appeals to the person that don't like it. Because anytime you build up an audience and you build up some type of notoriety in any area, you're going to have an audience of people that like you. You're going to have an audience of people that don't like you. Some people will try to get their fame and recognition by appealing to the audience of people that don't like you. Right. And it works in varying degrees. I mean, Rush Limbaugh built a very, very successful media career appealing to people that don't like specific politicians. So it works in a certain degrees based on how talented you are about it. But Rush Limbaugh never got involved in the cancel culture, right? Because he understands it doesn't work, just like it doesn't work for him. Rush Limbaugh has had drug addiction issues. The dude's been married multiple times. He's had all kind of issues. People that have selected Rush Limbaugh as a person that they believe is relaying their values back to them, it doesn't matter what information you put on the table about Rush Limbaugh. They don't want to hear it. Why? Because they made a decision and they're not going to admit that their decision was wrong. So it doesn't matter what information you present to them about Rush Limbaugh. Now, you can appeal to the people that don't like Rush Limbaugh, but for the people that like him, they're going to decide behind closed doors in secret, where nobody's going to know about it, that they made a wrong decision in dealing with Rush Limbaugh. That's how that's going to work. Right? So I want you to ask yourself, if you're involved in this, where, well, we got this information on this particular person, right? And you're trying to build a campaign against that person. Is this something that is really a good use of your time now that you understand how a person's brain really works when they select or promote a person inside their mind? Do you think this is a good use of your energy? Is this helping you get to where you want to go in life? Rallying against this other person. Now we're going to give you a solution because we talked about what the problem is. So let's roll into the solution. The real issue is that our people have poor choices. This is something I really got a great understanding from the guys at Bodyhood, Corey Camp and Jimmy Williams at Bodyhood. They on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, right? You should go check them out. And they got me to really understand that our people have poor choices. So as a result, the fact that our people have poor choices, they don't have a range of things to pick from that are really going to be beneficial to them. So when you're looking at a lot of young people, the people that are appealing to them are they really not really solid 100% away. So if you're a young person and you're looking to try to get some understanding from, and you're looking at these people that are on social media, you got weirdo A, weirdo 2, weirdo 3, weirdo 4. So you still picking a weirdo. You don't have a choice. They're all weirdos. But you're so desperate for a life preserver, you just got to deal with one. If you're a woman and you're looking to try to deal with a man, you got weirdo 1, weirdo 2, weirdo 3, weirdo 4. So you still end up picking a weirdo at the end of the day. So telling people need better choices, right? They need to expand their ability and expand their options. And a lot of people don't like that. But the problem is that you're not helping people by keeping them confined to a small group of choices that are not really good choices for them. So one of the ways in which you provide a solution to it, right, is you become the better choice. You have to lead in the way in which you think will bring about the change. Don't create campaigns against people. Don't rally against people and what they say. Who cares what they say? Biden's going to say a lot of stupid stuff. Who cares? Kamala Harris is going to do what she's going to do. Who cares? We all know she's not 100% black. We know this. We know that. It doesn't matter. People that have chosen to support Kamala Harris are going to support her because they made a choice to do it. You're not going to present any information that's going to change that. So now all you're doing is creating oppositional content for the people that don't like her. But how does that solve a problem at the end of the day? So how do you lead in a way in which you bring about the change without just creating an attack platform? Unless you want to be the next Rush Limbaugh, right? But it's going to be hard to do that on YouTube or social media because the reason why he's successful is because he drove a lot of ad dollars on radio. You're not going to drive those kind of ad dollars on YouTube. It's not the same kind of platform. Now, if you just want a lot of attention, then go for it. But if you really want to provide a solution to people, the question is, how can you be the better choice? Instead of trying to tell them that the choices they're picking are bad choices, how can you be the better choice? And if you're not the better choice for them, then why are you so concerned with the choices that they're picking if you yourself are not the better choice? So if you are looking at people in an environment and you're saying, you know what? You're making bad choices in the people that you're choosing to associate with, or the people that you're choosing to get information from, or the people that you're choosing to get instruction from. The question is, are you the better choice? Really, not you think you're the better choice. Are you the better choice? How are you a better choice than these particular people? What makes you different from them in real life, not on the internet? Right? What real value do you add to the situation? And then if you can bring real value to the situation, then start about bringing that value to the situation. And then you'll find that, you know what, because you really are a better choice, you can start to drive some of those people away from their bad choices. Because being associated with the wrong people has very, very severe consequences. And a lot of people find that out too late. That being associated to the wrong people has very, very, very severe consequences, especially in this world where you don't get a lot of chances to make a lot of mistakes. But the way to combat that is not to create a bunch of oppositional content, to create a bunch of content in which you're attacking people, to try to create cancellation campaigns, is that you got to try to figure out, how can I appeal to this person and be the better choice? And that's how you solve the problem. But a lot of our people suffer from poor choices. They don't have great options to pick from, right? And one of the things in which you can do to solve that problem is you could try to figure out how to become the better choice and leave all the attacking campaigns alone. Because a lot of people on social media, they think that they're going to build their platform by attacking another person. And it really, what it really means to me is that they've run out of ideas. They don't really have a creative mind, right? If everything they do is a piggyback off what somebody else did, this is lack of creativity. But they have an audience because that always works, right? Because like I said, there's any time you build an audience on the internet or you build an audience in any area, you got people that like you, you got people that don't like you. That's how the game goes. So then the person says, well, you know what? I'm not going to appeal to the people that like them. I'm going to appeal to the people that don't like them. The question is, after you sit back and listen to all this content about why this is the worst person in the world, what has changed in your life? So you're telling me, really, I just get online and just hear negative stuff all day. That's what makes me happy, is negativity, right? And I bet that your life is a reflection of that. Your life is a reflection. All you do is get online and hear negative content about somebody. So that's going to be the first content of 2021, the Laws of Game series. You cannot cancel someone online who already has an audience. The solution to that is you provide better choices by you individually being the change, right? And Ice Cube got a lyric, talks about how when people see him, it's like night and day compared to the other rappers. And you want to be that person, right? When you step into the arena, when you step into the scene, it's amazing how it's a contrast between you and the rest of these guys. Because like I said before, is that a lot of people, their choices right now, especially on social media, right, is weirdo 1, weirdo 2, weirdo 3, and weirdo 4. Like, for real. And people that's really been around real situations and been around real people, they see it. It's just the masses of people, you know, this system and this society and their conditioning has made them very, very vanilla, where they don't even really understand what real is because they've never been around it and it's never really been presented to them. So they fall victim to a lot of stuff because they really don't know any better. So if you feel like you have something better to bring to the situation, then bring that and then, you know, essentially throw your hat in the ring and let's see how it goes. So if you know somebody that can get value from this, share it out. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comments. This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, and I'll talk to you later.